and then we can just keep chatting until a couple more people trickle in, and then I'll introduce you guys.
Sure.
All right. So what background is that? Is that
I don't know. It's some Skype background. I've never actually used it before. I didn't even know Skype had backgrounds, so figured, hey, why not?
yeah, more. I've noticed more people started using those.
I have an awesome communist library one on Zoom, but we're not on. I didn't have time to load it in.
Richard, how are your cats?
Oh, they're doing well. They're hanging in there. It's the youngest one. He has this thing where he gets a growth on his lip, like maybe once a year, and the only cure is to give him steroids. So
My
he's
cat has the
just
same
finished
thing
getting
because
around to
it
that.
looks like
Yeah,
it looks like a pimple.
yeah, the
But
granuloma.
we haven't like checked to see what exactly it is, but I think that's what my fiance's what she's speculating it might be.
Mm.
But
I think they can get herpes too. I could be wrong. I know they can get HIV, but it's their own feline AIDS. It's not HIV. It's FIV.
yeah, you got any pets?
No, I used to have a cat. I don't have any pets in a while. A friend of mine though lost their cat to FIV.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, did Chad said he's gonna go puff?
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Hey man, do what you gotta do. If you guys want a drink or anything, you're more than welcome to do that for us. So,
Save that up for tomorrow.
but yeah, I asked Ian Richard what his thoughts are on the election results. With we might actually end up having Biden and Harris. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, despite all the calls of election malfeasance, and I think it's important to investigate them, it also doesn't shock me that Biden won, just on the base argument that the party that told its people to vote by mail was going to get more votes by mail than the party that discouraged that kind of doesn't shock me. I'm not looking forward to it either way. I think the cabinet picks already are pretty good evidence of that.
They're horrible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're
I'm gonna
God.
terrible.
cover it soon. I have to cover it.
But
It's
hey, what's his name? Anthony. He's like the Jimmy Dore video. What? He's a dad. He's got two toddlers, so it's all good.
and he was on Sesame Street.
Imperialism's cool.
Did you guys see that? He was on Sesame Street talking about refugees to
Really?
Grover.
Oh,
Yeah, he's like these people they don't have their home, and then Grover's like, oh, I don't know what I would do if I lost Sesame Street. He's like trying to already indoctrinate people into liking these people, these war criminals.
The propaganda is pretty bad in general.
For
Like
sure.
if you paying attention to movies and TV and all that shit's designed.
oh yeah. The Animaniacs reboot's got like 2 episodes dedicated to Russian propaganda and meddling.
Oh my god.
Really?
Are you
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, this shit's so bad, man.
Terrible.
All right, I gotta adjust my volume, and then we'll be ready to start. All right, we're
Don't-
streaming already, but we'll get started with the topics once I get my mic high enough.
That's what she said.
Classic.
It's one of those days. It's one of those days, fellas.
Classic. All right, so it looks like my volume is great. Welcome, Brian. Welcome, Anthony. All right, so I am pleased to be joined by Ian Schlackman, Richard Idris, and Chad Wilson, all of which are formerly or still a part of the Green Party. It's great to have you guys on. How are you guys doing today?
You
Good.
good?
Good to be
Well,
here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So I guess we can get started with the first question that I have for you guys, which is, Were you guys at all surprised by the results that we got in the election in terms of Howie Hawkins? Who wants to get started with that? I think he got like 0.3%?
Overall, God, what was the national result? It was, I know by state, I think the highest percent he got was 1% in Maine, but generally like 0.3. It was
Jesus.
0.3% across the entire country.
In
Less than
comparison,
400,000.
in comparison to what Jill Stein got, which was like a little over 1%. So it's definitely a downgrade, but what are your thoughts on those results, guys?
Well, I could get us started. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. At all. At the end of the 2016 election, Jill Stein was a household name. Everyone was talking about Jill Stein.
Yeah.
And that was before she started the lawsuits to open up the voting machines and to get into the software and look at the codes. That was before that. After that, it even skyrocketed even higher. So almost, I mean, I know so many people that still thought Jill Stein was the candidate. They just said, I'm going to vote for Jill Stein or whoever the heck the Green Party candidate is. They just had, I mean, Howie just had no charisma. He did a terrible job campaigning. He raised so little money. The party apparatus around him worshipped him like a god and never challenged him to say, like, hey, can you get out of your house? Like, they made fun of Joe Biden for being in his basement. Howie Hawkins should get that award for like most time spent in your basement while you're a national presidential nominee. He had literal Black Lives Matter rallies happening all around him in upstate New York. Chose to do nothing around Black Lives Matter. I mean, maybe a couple of press statements here and there. But to me, the most sad part of this is that when the results came in, they're in black and white, clear as day. He did terrible as a candidate. The Hawkins fanatics, which is most of the party, as far as I could see, are still like, oh, yeah, you know what? It was probably all rigged against him. Like, there are two candidates right now that are claiming the election was wildly rigged, and that is the people that are for Donald Trump and the people that are still for Howie Hawkins. Like, they think there's some kind of national Howie Hawkins, anti-Howie Hawkins conspiracy. There's not. Your candidate was just terrible. Just an uninspiring, horrible candidate. I mean, there's nothing else to discuss. And, I mean, I don't even know where the Green Party goes from here. This is a new low. It's embarrassing.
Was there even any votes to take away from him? Like, he barely got any votes. Chad, what do you think? Are you surprised by the results at all?
I'm not surprised at all. You know, I think, I mean, I don't trust the outcome anyways. I don't trust what the official narrative is, the official total, because, you know, I do subscribe to the whole notion that our whole system is screwed up. I do. So I don't try to ignore that part of it, in my own view. So I mean, I don't think that he got. There was no energy for him. There was no energy for a third party or another choice. That was the whole thing. It was the perfect opportunity for that. But, you know, they're blaming it on it being because, it was Biden and Trump because of the candidates. Like, no, that means it's the best opportunity to have another option. So, I mean, I don't think that they flipped anything. It's poor showing. And the other thing is that most of the people that I've even seen, you know, tweet out that they've voted for, you know, they voted for the Green Party. They didn't vote for Hawkins. So, I mean, even a lot of those votes were for Hawkins, you know, and I think that may have been, you know, part of their strategy to, you know, just to write off, you know, Jill's coattails. But I mean, Hawkins is already filed to run again for 2024, by the way.
There definitely is suppression of third parties in our country, but that's not the only reason why I think that Howie Hawkins did so poorly. You guys hit it on how he has poor charisma. And Richard, didn't Jesse Ventura receive more votes overall, like in Alaska, than in any state that Howie Hawkins performed in?
In just about any state. There were a few outliers, like I believe Maine is one where, Hawkins is still at 1% in Maine. So, there was maybe one or two places where he got above how Ventura did in Alaska without running a campaign, which kind of tells you all that you need to know.
So what is your take on why Howie performed so poorly?
I mean, beyond openly saying that the Greens don't need to win to do anything, right? We just need to kind of influence the Democratic platform. I think you all have already talked about his lack of charisma, so that's just kind of beating a dead horse. But there's also the whole perception of the primary process being pretty, rigged, quite frankly, and the party really not wanting to address that. Quite frankly, hung over his head. What little coverage there was of Howie Hawkins was by and large about how problematic the primary was by the time the general election came around. It was either that or it was articles making fun of how he had lost 25 elections, if you looked at mainstream coverage. Right, so there was no reason to vote for a Green beyond to vote for the party. And I want to say it's a little sad that there were folks who were willing to vote for the party, because isn't one of the main reasons a lot of folks vote third party in the first place, because just voting blue no matter who or voting red no matter who doesn't get you anywhere. So maybe submitting yourself to the same logic is going to put you in the same position. Maybe pick a candidate that's willing to listen to your values. I see people in chat saying he was a soft imperialist and that was a concern of theirs. I agree too. The deference towards the Russiagating stuff, which he tried to backpedal on later, was really disappointing in a third-party candidate for a third party that was slandered with those same allegations.
So you guys saw this. I guess you guys saw this coming since like the primaries, right? So do you guys want to touch a little bit on your experiences that you had during the primaries with the Green Party? Like what did you guys see happening that was so unfair? And why, like Richard, you want to talk a little bit more about what was so unfair in the primaries with the Green Party that is kind of hypocritical of like what goes on in the Democratic Party?
I mean, I think one of the best examples are just the hidden primaries. Kentucky had 6 people vote, and they said the state of Kentucky endorses Howie Hawkins. No one knew when the vote was going to happen, and it happened in someone's living room. That's real democratic. Charging dues fees in the middle of a pandemic for youth people to be able to vote in the youth caucus, and they defended that by saying, well, that's not a primary. But like, if your point is the caucuses are to provide representation for folks who are underrepresented, then maybe charging dues fees during a pandemic ain't the way to do that. There's lots of little edge cases like that. I'm sure Chad and Ian can speak to just the outright exclusion of other candidates. The prevention of write-ins in different states was pretty egregious. The folks that we had who ran the initial committee that had looked into the prospect of a Ventura run were pretty slanted against him, as well as the folks who were on the original Ventura PAC, which was a rabbit hole in and of itself. They had an insider, Justin Beth, pose with a fake alias and try and run the group into the ground, and then accused us of selling merch and somehow trying to besmirch the governor's name. There's like a lot of just really weird infiltration going on within the party. Like, what good does this get anybody, right? Instead of just having a democratic primary process. It's a mess.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian and Chad. Anything else you guys want to add on about your experiences?
Well, yeah, I just want to jump back to something for a second, though, because I live in Baltimore. Okay, I've called the Board of Elections numerous times for election rigging and stuff like that, and the Green Party does have a suppression problem, where they are actively suppressed. But you got to look at Joe Jorgensen doing extremely well, 2-3%, one of the best showings for a candidate without a celebrity status in the Libertarian Party. And you got to wonder, what the heck happened on the Green Party side. Now, this kind of gets back to the primary, because one of the chief arguments that I think a lot of us were making in the Green Party primary was that even if you just liked Hawkins because he was your buddy because you started the party with him 20 years ago, and that's why you wanted to support him, he just didn't have any charisma. He doesn't have any fight to him. I mean, there's really no way around that. Every single time he talked nothing but about how the Democrats stole the Green New Deal from him, and that was his big talking point. And a lot of folks I know are I mean, that's kind of like the college professor railing at your, tiny liberal arts university saying, I was the first one to come up with this economic theory, and there's like 5 people in the classroom and just nobody gives a crap. I mean, that's kind of the Hawkins campaign strategy. And then when you talk to him personally, like I did numerous times, he just rails about things that are just like totally off base for the Green Party. Not only did he rail about Russiagate and how he, basically bought it hook, line, and sinker, but then he rails about how he doesn't like Cuba, he doesn't like Venezuela. I mean, he wasn't just a soft imperialist, because when I talked to him, he was basically pro-imperialism. I mean, his work in socialism was around pro-imperialist groups. So I mean, his policies were terrible, all this different stuff. And the primary was not allowed to happen, in my personal opinion. There was no, let's tell everyone who was a Bernie person, let's tell everyone who wants to vote in the Green Party primary, no matter the reason why, here's the date and time, here's how you register, here's how you get signed up, here's how you get excited about our candidates. Pick a candidate, get excited about them, go down and be a part of the process. There was no democratic process. It was at people's houses. It was at people's, living rooms, like Richard said. It was at people's poolside, at their house. And if you don't know them personally, you're not invited. That's the way this primary went. But on top of that, I mean, there were all kinds of crazy things that the Hawkins team demanded that they got, such as like getting signatures to get on the ballot, to get on the Green Party primary, raising a certain amount of money. I mean, so if I'm a Green Party candidate that says I want no money in politics, thanks to Howie Hawkins' team, I have to raise money to somehow then have the argument that I want money out of politics. And his whole reasoning was he's the best positioned person to raise money. He raised less money than like any Green in the past 4 times they ran. It's pathetic. It's absolutely sad. And every single time these concerns were put out there to everyone from Jill Stein to other Greens on the steering committee, it was just a lot of like, oh, well, we'll work on it, or maybe we'll do something. Well, Howie's a good friend of mine. Well, I'm glad that you chose your friend because you sunk the party, sunk it like a stone.
Yeah, I saw somebody had mentioned in the chat too. Hawkins did say, he said a righteous deployment when he was talking about, I think he was when he talked about Turkey. I think I can't remember exactly where it was, but I mean they made up their minds ahead of time. They knew who they wanted to run, and the 2 biggest issues that the Green Party has, or that any third party has, is being able to have access to the debate stage and ballot access, which is the 2 main things you need, in order to actually run an effective campaign. And as you are given debate, stage time, people are able to look at you, pit up against these people. They learn your platform. They get to know your personality. These are things that that actually puts people on the hot seat to have to perform and have to be quick and have to be better. It is a test in a way. But that was, I mean, if you look at the primary, the 2 biggest things was ballot access and having access to the debates. They didn't even want to throw any debates. Pasta from the Convo Couch was trying to put together a debate with all the candidates, but Hawkins' camp didn't want to do it. And it's clear that they purposely did not promote the primary. They did not want anybody to know about it. They wanted to shuffle it through, get through it, and then pretend like all this has gone down, rather than using it as a way to get people engaged. So those are one of the couple of things. The other thing is how they padded his resume. When you talk about the Green New Deal, he didn't actually come up with the slogan. This guy named Colin It's on the Green Party thing. Colin something I can't think of right now, but he came up with the phrase in like 2007, and then he was at some sort of thing with some other Greens, and this is all in Europe, So, he was the first one to campaign on it. It's like you create these like damn near lies to say that you're the founder of the Green Party when you were maybe an original member. Like there's footage of him saying that he was invited on behalf of the Clamshell Alliance and to the first meeting. So somebody invited the Clamshell Alliance, not Hawkins. They didn't, Hawkins didn't organize this thing, didn't put it together and say, hey, we're going to do this. Because there's the thing is like, if Hawkins was this great fucking organizer, this great inspiring person, why is the party not viable by now? Mm-hmm. He's had plenty of time, and he's been a member of the Socialist Party since 1973. He's been a dues-paying member, and that's the other big thing is that it confuses people and it hurts the brand. And the idea is you're supposed to and we could talk about the whole socialism and how it's a dirty word in public and how we should be able to have these discussions, but the way that they went about it, hurt the process, because him being a member and the nominee of another party, of course he was even trying to be nominee of another party too, that what's his name, Dario ended up getting the line in was it Wisconsin, not Wisconsin, Oregon, I think. There's another
Oregon, I believe.
Progressive Party.
Party. So there's just a lot of confusing issues when it comes to the party, and that's it's not even about Hawkins. Let me explain. It's not about Hawkins. Hawkins is the example, because if they're throwing somebody in there to be the candidate and not allowing this process to go and not allowing people to put their voices out there and actually say, this is what we need, this is what we're looking for, this is what we want to see, because that's what it comes down to. I feel like people agree with these basic things that we need to have done. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Even conservatives are seeing socialism different. You may not call it socialism. You can call it a bailout. You can call it people are okay with making sure everybody's straight during a time where you can't work, when there's no so it's like it's just they did it on purpose. They had to have done it on purpose. They can't be in politics for 50 years and not recognize how these things connect.
I just want to reiterate how great it is to have the three of you on here. You guys are, the audience can attest to this also. You guys are very influential. We've watched you guys on other progressive shows that are bigger than mine, and where you guys have shared your experiences. So I want to take the time right now to have you guys ask each other questions. Like, do any of you guys have any questions for the other guest that's here about their experiences or anything? Go ahead and take the time to do that now.
Yeah, I guess I got a question for Richard. How did it come about getting Ventura on the Alaska ballot line? That was very, very impressive, and I think really was a shock to a lot of folks that thought that would never happen.
Honestly, that was the Alaskan Green Party just kind of doing their own thing. Robert Shields held like a poll where he contacted folks from the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, independents in general, pretty much anybody. I think it was over 1,000 folks were polled, and Ventura won the poll, and he used that as justification to put Ventura as the nominee in place of Hawkins. And it was basically a middle finger to the party. They're not very thrilled with it. My understanding is they're trying to revoke their party accreditation, which, we'll see how that goes. The Libertarian Party's had so many splinters like this before, and they managed to stay in one piece. It amazes me that the Green Party can't handle this for a cycle.
Well, the thing is with Alaska, the Hawkins people, I guess they paid somebody to petition, right, in order to get signatures, in order to get the Green Party on the ballot. So they were trying to strong arm him, trying to be, I mean, you know their tactics, the way that they talk to people, they talk down. It's like, you're not a Green, this, that, whatnot. So then at a certain point, then you have to really be on your toes, because on the defense, really, because you don't know who's who, who's what, who's real, who's trying to change things, and who's like just kind of dirty, and that's the, and I guess which I understand now why Ian left the race, because I think Ian saw early on that it was a waste. It was a lot of energy to take on in order to have to fight these certain to fight these issues or whatnot within the party. Did you feel like you didn't want to be like a spoiler thing, or what was your feelings about when you came to that conclusion, I guess?
Well, actually, that kind of leads into a question I had for you, Chad, which is, I believe I heard that you were actually doxxed by the Hawkins campaign. They made a dossier about you and sent it out to a bunch of different folks. And I guess to kind of answer your question, so when I was in the race in early to the fall of 2019, things were congealing around Hawkins, and it was very obvious that certain states were just doing terribly undemocratic things, and certain states were kind of in the middle, and certain states were trying to be democratic. But I mean, to me, in spring of 2019, there were moderates in the party who are not part of the Hawkins faction, who would call up Howie, who was also seen as a moderate in the party, and ask him over and over again, what the hell are you doing with this Green Party power faction? Like, what are you? These folks are the absolute worst of the party. They dox, they lie. Mm-hmm. The campaign manager was a known criminal who stole from a school board. I mean, what are you doing? And every single time he'd turn around and go, oh, well, if I kick them off, then I'm just appeasing the moderates, and I want everyone to get together and work together. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed folks to just slap the hell out of that situation and say, this is not going to be okay. Like, we can't have a known criminal, running a front runner's campaign. Like, something's got to change here. And they just didn't want to move an inch. So then it kind of moved from like that to like, okay, well, let's see if we can force them by humiliation to open up their primary. And if they would have opened up their primary, to be frank with you, I think Jesse Ventura would have won in a landslide, and then that draft campaign would have gotten a lot further. But that didn't happen either. So at that point, I had supporters going into this, and I just made the decision that I wasn't gonna. I got criticism over and over and over again from folks that said, you didn't raise enough money, raise some money and get back to us. And that's not what happened. What happened was that I told my supporters, don't cut checks. Because why would I want them to cut a check to a campaign that is in a middle of a rigged primary? Save your money. I mean, there's nothing, I don't know what else to tell you. I couldn't support that, and I wasn't going to drag my supporters through it. And people need to know the truth. They need to understand that the primary was rigged. There's no path to victory here. I mean, I think I could have raised $1 million and I still would have been thrown out of the race. There's really no way around it. But yeah, that's my question for you, Chad. If you want to answer it, were you doxxed, and did you get any like threatening phone calls or anything, or emails? I'm kind of curious about that.
I don't think I got any emails or calls. People were kind of, I mean, here's the thing, I recognized early on that, first of all, I thought it was just a couple of people, some toxic people. I didn't realize it was this whole connection of people that have placed these people in official positions, and then they're literally, with a handful of centralized group, making decisions that affect everybody. So, having to get people so in order to move forward, you have to fix that. Like the party's not going to be viable in the way that it's operating. I mean, the first things first is make sure the structure's right, the vibe's right, the energy's right, and people are allowed to speak. And I thought it was, the idea of the Green Party should be allowing to have all these different voices, but there's the platform for you to be able to discuss everything and feel comfortable about, having different leanings, but kind of wanting the same thing. That was kind of, anyway, so me having to kind of go hard at these people, I realized it wasn't going to work the other way. You can't play the nice politician guy, and I'm not a politician anyways. So, I knew I had to go do the rah-rah thing, and the bull in the china shop, and that already put me on the list of to not take me seriously, So, and then with me adding in going after Jill Stein, that's like it's like going after these liberals with Obama and or the Clintons or some people even going after Trump. It's like you know what I mean? They can't handle it.
Yeah.
So I was going after people online or whatever, was going hard, and people were fucking with me. And I was getting by a couple different people specifically they were giving me shit, and I kind of bantered back and forth, went through the whole thing, and it was like a week or two later, they started reaching out to me individually, like saying, hey, all you were saying, you were right, I apologize, you were right. And so the first time I hear that, I'm like, okay, this is a plant. They're that's the first thing, But then they kind of kept on, and then somebody else contacted me, and then that's kind of how I ended up eventually getting in contact with the Ventura people. But they doxed me, and I've got the thing that they printed out. It's not accurate. I was never married before, but it was it's pretty interesting to see. I'm like, if you guys aren't worried about me, why are you doing like a background check on me, So,
I think it's just intimidation tactics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead.
Well, can I just add something to the intimidation tactics? I just want everyone out there listening to know, anyone watching this later on, like this is what the Hawkins campaign flushed your money down the toilet on, getting a terrible background check and handing out to volunteers that was completely fucking fake. Excuse me, I don't know if I can curse on this.
It's fine. You're free
okay.
to do
Good.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's completely fake, and they threw it away. This was as I've said before, this faction who supported Hawkins wanted the money. That's why they did this. They do not care about Hawkins's politics. They don't care at all. You ask a question about the politics, they just say, "Oh, Howie's too busy to deal with that. I'm not going to bother him with it." So they literally took money and spent it on loyalists, giving them lots and lots of cushy jobs under the campaign. And if you didn't speak out about Hawkins, you got extra money. And if you really went hard after me or Chad or Jesse Ventura folks, then you got even more money. You got even a higher promotion or position in the campaign. And that's how loyal they knew you were. That's where your money went. If you gave money to the Hawkins team, this is where your money was spent. Trying to get other candidates thrown off the ballot, trying to get other candidates doxxed and dossiers made up on them, and all this kind of internal fighting. This is where your money was spent. At the end of the campaign in 2016, mind you, when Jill Stein was finish up her general election, the same people in the Green Party power faction gave her a ton of shit, to be frank with you, because she wanted to spend money on a recount and on investigating the voting machines and making sure that the code, which was closed sourced, became open source, that people could actually look at it and see what the code was. Like, that's how Jill Stein spent her money, and that was controversial to these people. The same people that then turned around and supported Hawkins. And look how they spent the money. They didn't even raise more than $1 million, so they don't really qualify for public finances, as far as I know, which they kept promising they were going to do. And then, they turned the money around and handed it right back out to their cronies. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. And I a lot of people gave you shit, Chad, but I did not, because, man, like Jill Stein needed to be called out. Like that was the right move. Like that was the move because she knew about the corruption and she did nothing. She did not, and it wasn't even until months later that I like psychologically realized after I left the race, like in the spring of 2020, I was like, wait a minute, Jill Stein told me that she took a job with Hawkins. She said it. She said it to me. She brandished that around. Like people on the inside knew. I guess it's just so stunning that the former president would just take a job with the Hawkins team on the premise that they're going to get some kind of money. I mean, I've lost all respect for her. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Jill Stein for president raised $160,000 in 2019, and she wasn't running. So, I mean, think about that. I mean, they raised, half the amount that Hawkins raised, and she didn't even run.
Right.
And so if you look at who got paid on there, besides David Cobb, which David Cobb is connected to Michael O'Neill, they've been running her Facebook page, and then they've been sharing that content on the main party page, the Green Party US. So that's what they're doing. They're using it as a way to legitimize and promote their organizations and stuff like that. It's kind of like a front. That's why they don't want it to get any bigger, because if it gets any bigger, then they can't use it. But yeah, no, I mean, I got a lot of shit for the Jill Stein part, and it was really revealing to me when Primo Nutmeg interviewed her, and he pressed her. Nobody ever presses her. Nobody presses her at all. But pressed her, about the affiliation rule, and it says you can't be a member of a party. And she's like, oh, well, because he talked about the nomination. She's like, oh, well, I got endorsements, but she's like, were you a member? And if you look at her face there, it's so defeated. And I'm just like, I guess the biggest takeaway from this whole thing is, I guess, how I look at politics and how I look at people and how I look at the whole game, because it's a lot dirtier than I realized. Like, yeah. I didn't realize there's so many. I mean, the people are playing activists, they're playing politician, they're playing these games in order to raise money and because they like the feeling, they like being liked, they like being noticed. I guess there's something where activists they kind of get full of themselves. Like, I don't know if there's a term for that or something like that. Somebody was talking about that it's kind of a well-known thing to hear, like, I guess like professional activists or whatnot. They kind of get used to getting her in their name. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird thing, anyways, because you have to be able to deal with people, liking you and almost treating you like a cult thing. But then I don't like that. I'm like, it's
I mean, it's a Green Party. I mean, excuse me, guys, but it's a Green Party. It's the bastion of democracy. I would argue with Jill when I was still talking to her in the middle of 2019, saying, like, if we don't have the example primary, we should be setting the example primary for all the other parties to say that we did it right. Fuck the Democrats, fuck the Republicans. Instead, they didn't just do what the Democrats did, which was try to use the debate stage to kick out candidates. They did what the Republicans did, which is to say there is no primary. Don't look over there. Hawkins is the nominee, has always been the nominee, and even Jill Stein knows that. I mean, damn. I mean, we have literally handed the torch of democracy over to the Libertarian Party. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, that was as far as I could see a decently run primary. This was not.
Their delegates aren't bound until the convention, is my understanding. They pick at the convention. Like, the popular vote is just an idea for their primary. So I don't even know how great theirs is. Like, my understanding is Joe Jorgensen was maybe third overall, but they really didn't want Vermin Supreme on the ticket. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is we're supposed to be engaging people and trying to figure out that process. So the conversation is the most important about it. And, first of all, if Ventura would have – so one of the things they didn't want – like, you're talking about the youth caucus. They didn't want people to vote in the youth caucus because they didn't want him to get any delegates. Because if he got delegates, it would take away from Hawkins. If it took away from Hawkins, then he's going to be pushed into the second round. And that's what people were hoping to do. Of course, I mean, we saw the way that they ran the whole convention thing. It was all messed up. But Ventura actually could have stopped the delegate count. That's what I try to tell people. You don't have. There was no timeline for you to jump in the race. It was, the whole point is it's about delegates. And then at the end of the day, it's like, the party should be having these discussions to say, okay, hey, here's an opportunity in this scenario that we as a party can make a splash. I mean, the whole world would have been talking about the United States Green Party if we would have nominated Ventura, or even if we would have had the discussion, or even and people say, well, he wasn't running. I was like, then call his bluff. Calling his bluff would put you on the map. It was a win-win. But the thing I have to point out is about all the people on the payroll. Realize that Hawkins is just a puppet. They choose Hawkins because Hawkins gets in line, he follows a line, and he helps them raise money, and he goes after, he appeals to their their older base. This certain base is what they want. I mean, you can look at Jill Stein and her protege from Maine. I can't even think of her name right now. Lisa Savage. Yeah. So one of the connections there is David Schwab. David Schwab got paid by the Jill Stein for president, got paid for the Howie Hawkins, and got paid for the Lisa Savage. And of course, David Doonan, he's the guy that's running our the media and stuff like that. He's getting paid for this stuff. It is this little slush fund of say, okay, hey, you stay in line, you do this, whatever. We're gonna put you in rotation. Ventura could have easily stopped the delegates from reaching that certain point. For those that use that as an argument that he tried to undemocratically, no. In fact, that's why he said he can't even come into a party that's already fractured and divided. That's what he said on Jimmy Dore. Like, what do you want me to fix the party? I can't do it. But I mean, you need to. I mean, if you can't fix the party, if you can't, step up, but you can't really do the country either. You know what I mean? Like, but we don't have to give him too much shit for that. But
I mean, I will say too that his publicist kind of intentionally did not forward our communications to Ventura until actually he never did. He never received any of the communications that we had sent to his publicist. So Ventura did not find out about us as a movement until the end of July, despite us corresponding with his publicist since May and her telling us, Jesse might be interested in seeing this paperwork. And we sent him the forms that he needed to fill out to be able to speak at the convention even. And to my knowledge, he didn't even realize that he'd received that. So there's some really weird outlying things that happen too. And then if you dig into her relations with folks, like her husband is like really close with Roger Stone, and so there's a whole weird rabbit hole there. With I wonder why they might stonewall Jesse Ventura trying to run against Trump. I don't know.
And I don't know if you saw this too, Ian. The letter that the PCSC, the Presidential Campaign Support Committee, sent out in response to the whole affiliation rule and the issue had people sign, but I believe a lot of them weren't even on the Presidential Campaign Support Committee. And one of the people that were on there, besides, I think, Lou Novak, I think he was on there, I believe, was Aaron Fox, which was the guy that they put the point man for, Ventura, which, again, we talked about Justin Beth being involved. Because so what, Aaron Fox, didn't he, quit a bunch of times?
He was a repeated saboteur. Aaron Fox was a mess. He ran the first PAC, the We Want Jesse PAC, and that he did not alert any of the volunteers to a registration deadline for New York. Told them to just go out and get new voters. Come time for the New York vote to be tallied for the New York primary, there were, I think, a little over 130 votes for Ventura, but they were all brand new voters, so they were all tossed out. And Hawkins won the primary with 127 votes to Dario's, 20-something? It was like less than 200 votes overall in the primary in Hawkins' home state, with almost 30,000 people registered. And the candidate who wasn't running would have won if they didn't have undemocratic registration deadlines as a grassroots party. Like what?
That's what I said. That's one of the reasons that I left, was because I could not get a straight answer from many states, not all, but many of the states, about how their registration process worked. And it was just an embarrassment. I mean, there wasn't an open primary. There was a primary where you got to know the guy whose house they held the caucus in, where you're not invited to caucus. Because they did these. Some of the states did caucuses. Some of the states did a primary, which really, if you force everybody to be there on site, is a caucus. So forget about an open primary, which what I was pushing for. I mean, it wasn't just that and that's interesting about the Jesse Ventura stuff, but it doesn't surprise me because they had a similar notion with the Bernie stuff, where there was a big effort, on my part and on the part of some other folks who eventually wound up giving up, to grab those Bernie supporters and make sure they understood that there is an open primary and you could register and you could be here. But there was, not to say there was no appetite for that's a good way to say it. I mean, there was no interest in letting new folks into the Green Party. It was downright hostile to the idea of new folks coming in who were fed up with the Democratic rigging and wanting to join just to vote for their candidate or to be part of the primary. They were like, so many folks I talked to were like, no, we want people to earn their stripes, to like make their dues. Not even by money, which sometimes was there, like in the youth caucus, but sometimes by just like, no, we want to know you for like a couple years and then we'll let you vote in our primary.
A hazing process,
That's worse than the Democrats, though. I mean, we really got to call it like we see it. Now that is so much worse than the Democrats. Wow. It's just completely anti-democratic, and they just did. That was the whole point. I know we said it before, but it's worth repeating. Like, the point was to shrink the Green Party, because with a smaller, shrunken Green Party, the Green Party Power Project folks who ran the Hawkins campaign now have full control. And I argued this till I was blue in the face with Justin Beth, who kept telling me, I'm the biggest opponent of the Green Party Power Project that ever lived, and I'll fight them till I die. And I was like, they won. Like, they are 8 steps ahead of you. It's a chess. You're playing checkers and they're playing chess. They are you are not going to beat these folks. They have you on an enemies list. They know about you. They're thinking about you, and they're thinking about how they're going to destroy you, during this primary process and after this primary process. You're done in this party. Same thing goes for all those folks that supported Jill Stein and didn't like the Green Party Power faction. It was they were just outplayed.
And Jill Stein, she actually campaigned to keep candidates off the ballots in Massachusetts. She called up people in the party there to say, hey, don't put everybody on the ballot, including David Rold, he's been in the party 15, 16 years, marched beside her. It's just, yeah, it's like, what are you afraid of? And which it just, so here's a takeaway. So it's like, why would someone allow these things, right? Why are they okay with this behavior? Why are they okay with engaging in the same thing, doing the same thing as the establishment? Because that's the same thing they do. Right. It's like their little club, their little friend. They don't want anybody else to get in because it's going to mess it up. What's for them? Their whole little shtick, their whole little, and it's the same thing. It's just a different bubble, different level. And that's what I try to tell people. It's like the same thing when you're trying to tell Obama, like, if you're going to acknowledge that Bush was a war criminal, that the weapons of mass destruction wasn't there, the Afghanistan papers said were bullshit, the 2 to 7 wars, why didn't anything change? Why didn't anybody get prosecuted? These things are people don't, I guess, understand how these affect people's lives. Like the big picture. It's like Julian Assange. Like, what WikiLeaks revealed about 2016, see, I feel like is the biggest part to look at, because it shows, okay, how they use the media, how they're lockstep with the media, how they're in lockstep with the money interests, and they're utilizing the government, the infrastructure in order to make money, put money in their pockets. It's a hustle. That's all it is. It's saying, okay, hey, we control the purse strings, and we're going to make sure you throw money, you throw energy, you give me the airtime, whatever, then we're going to make sure that when our contracts come, when things are, we're going to send it back to you. Because think about that. It's a slush fund, right? With the media. I mean, the media owns the war machine, and, GE owns what media, it owns weapons manufacturing. So it's like, if you're paying for promotions in the media, it's like, it's a slush fund. It's easy to send your money around and for them to get paid, and people just, they don't put two and two together. It's so I guess that's where I'm coming to when it comes to, like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do after this point? Because all these issues that we've seen are the same issues. It's not like they're not like they're new. It's just it's in the Green Party, and that's what I was trying to tell, like, Graham Elwood. I tried to get them involved. I tried to get Jimmy Dore to cover it. I tried to get the Convo Couch to really cover it. It's like, you guys talk. You're against the corruption, you're against censorship, you're against election rigging. Why is this not a big deal to you guys to cover the party? And then Graham Elwood's like, oh, well, it just seems like an internal bickering, dude, you cover the fucking Democratic Party. Can you say that about
internal
the Democratic Party?
bickering, right?
Yeah, I mean
Plus the result here is that we don't have Jesse Ventura on the ballot. I mean, that's the result. I mean, that could have had national influence. I mean, Jesse Ventura, because of his status as that outsider who always speaks the truth, and someone who's also, like, floated around in the progressive circles, I mean, he was the right candidate for this time. Like, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of everything going on with like what you're saying with Assange and the media censorship and all that. Like, this guy cuts through all the crap, and he could have been the Green Party's guy. But, this was done very intentionally to make sure that Hawkins was the guy and the Green Party was a nothing this year. That was done really, really intentionally by the Hawkins team. And, that's why I don't understand these folks that were complicit, like Jill Stein, because what was their end game here? They're going to now take control back? Like, they've handed all the cards to the Green Party power faction, which is Hawkins' team, and now they're going to run roughshod over the whole party. I mean, when I was running, I got a phone call from a guy in Colorado literally crying about what the Hawkins campaign manager did when she ran the Colorado Greens, which she never gave up, by the way. She was the Colorado Green Party chairperson while running the Hawkins team, while sitting as the co-chair of the National Party. I mean, it was just pathetic. I like to say all the time, it's like if Tom Perez of the Democrats came on stage during a debate and said, hey, I'm Tom Perez, I'm the national co-chair of the DNC, and I'm also the Joe Biden campaign manager, but don't let that bother you. We're going to have a fair debate tonight. That's what the Hawkins team did all the time. You should have saw the page for Colorado. It was like it was just their website. Here's all the presidential candidates. Like a full page of Hawkins propaganda with pictures and all these talking points, and then like one sentence on Dario, one sentence on anybody else they let on the ballot, which I don't even know if they let anybody else on the ballot. It was like it was so blatant. It was absurd. And because of this, no one, I mean, kind of like, I said it months ago, and I'll say it again. I don't blame Jesse for not wanting to get involved in this mess, because as you know, Chad, I mean, the Hawkins campaign manager literally threatened violence against Jesse. Why would he want to be in a photo of him trying to get on the debate stage, and they're already trying to kick him out, and then all of a sudden the Hawkins campaign manager like jumps on the stage and starts beating him up or starts booing him like they booed me on the stage? Like, I mean, like, why would you, if you're Jesse Ventura and you got a show on RT and all this other stuff going on in your life, why would you want to deal with this? I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. And so, this is what we got. I
have a question for you guys before I get to some questions that the chat has. Chad brought something up that Richard also messaged me about, and that is that they are already filing paperwork for Howie Hawkins for 2024. And so where does the Green Party go from here? Is it worth saving? Like what can we do? Is it just like an abandoned ship and we go to another party, or what are we doing here? Because MPP, like I have some criticisms of that party, and I know Richard does as well. So I want to hear what you guys think we can do going forward. Is the Green Party worth saving?
Well, I'll just answer my part real quick. Well, we got to look at it like it's the values, right? It's the four pillars. It's what it means. Rose by any other name would smell as sweet, and that. So we have to, wherever anybody goes, it has to have all these elements designed to hold people and to invite people to learn and to engage and to really make some waves. With that said, the Green Party U.S. So this is where people kind of don't understand how the Green Party works. For those that don't, it's a federation, right? The GPUS is the national party, is made up of all these individual state parties. So individual state parties join the Green Party US. So what's going on now? Rhode Island just now left the Green Party US, and that is what the Hawkins faction has taken over, the Green Party US. And in fact, when they initially started it, that they purposely did not invite Howie Hawkins. They purposely left him out to not be involved. He was a part of the GPUSA, which was the first party or whatnot. And then it split and it created with all these people because they wanted to start running candidates. And Hawkins never even wanted to run a presidential candidate, which is the I guess part of the irony here. So where we're at is there's a lot of people that are tired of the BS and, of course, national. So there's a group of us, the independent Green Parties of the U.S. We're starting another national party, and we're going to, take the four pillars and build around that. All these things that we're talking about, all these things that we need, all these. We're going to fix all the things because, like you said, the MPP issue, and I could say something about that in a second. But so basically, I mean, we have to do exactly what needs to be done. To take all this criticism, to take all this information, and say, okay, well, what do we need? We need literature. We need to make it as easy as possible for people to run, where they can just go in and step in, and easy for people to get engaged and say, okay, here's a blueprint to learn about your city, your state. All these different things, and where we're educating people because we have to give value to people's lives, regardless. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But again, dogs are going nuts because I get excited. They get excited. So yeah, the idea is to take some of these state parties that want to do a new one or join a new one. They can do that, or we'll just start our own individual state parties and take care of what's needed. But as far as MPP, like the idea is, good. I guess it's the People's Party now, right? Because that's what they voted on. So, it's a good idea. The idea is there, and it's good to see people engaged and excited about it. But at the same time, they pander a lot. They're very, AOC. They're not really, they're not. I don't feel like they're taking it serious, and they're taking it serious in the organizing way, right? They're the structure as far as, I guess how they're building their infrastructure, it seems, but it's no different. It's just like a watered down, I guess that because that's the vibe to me, right? Like you can't say. You can't say, oh, well, we want AOC to come to our party. Fuck no, you don't want her to come to your party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's got to be some people that aren't fucking welcome. Now, it's different like for those that are, changing for real. You know what I'm saying? Like for AOC, for a lot of these people to I mean, it would take a lot for them to redeem themselves. I'm all for redemption, but I don't believe that. And you're going to just we're gonna water down the party by, because that's part of the wedge system, right? AOC is more of in place to piss off. Well, for two reasons: to piss off the conservatives, the right, because they point to her as the problem, and then it's to put a lot of the left younger cats to sleep. Oh, we got a progressive somebody in there. Look, but Mama Bear, you're talking about Nancy Pelosi is Mama Bear. You can't, all these Biden picks are good picks. Like, come on, like there's no real connection of what these people are saying in what they're saying. They're just playing along or playing that, reading the script of a progressive. That was long-winded, but yeah, the Green Party, the values is going to be going forward, but their whole shit is going to burn to the ground. It's on its way, so they've already lit it. So, and Ian, by the way, I want you guys to. I'm gonna hit you up out of here, but I want you to get involved if you're down.
Well, I appreciate that.
There's a growing group of people, man. They're getting really excited about this. So you ought to be engaged if you want.
Well, thanks for letting me know. But if you want to go first, Richard, feel free. You don't have to.
I mean, you can go ahead. I'll probably go off on a tangent about MPP, so I'd rather you get what's out of the way that you need to about the Greens first.
All right. I mean, is the Green Party worth saving? No. I mean, I guess my short answer is no. Like, not at all. Not even a little bit. Would be my response. I mean, I kept saying, I would say this like every day to my team. God knows, I must have said it like every hour to my wife. Like, I'm in the Green Party, right? Like, this is the Green Party. Like, how is this happening in the Green Party? Like, why are people doing this in the Green Party? Like, there's millions of dollars at stake and Senate seats and congressional districts and stuff in the Democratic Party. Like, I could get that level of, like, doxing and hiring investigators and backfighting and, like, just staying on the phone till 2 a.m. trying to convince someone to get off the ballot. All right, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's Halliburton wants to build a new pipeline, and we can't get that Democratic senator elected. All right, yeah, I get it. But, like, in the Green Party, like, why? Why are we doing this in the Green Party? I mean, it still baffles my mind. And what Chad's describing is exactly right. Like, you would, like, you get, if you got out of line in the Green Party, you get a call from Justin Beth, you get a call from fucking Jill Stein herself at 2 a.m. and she'd be like, hey man, you got to tone down that language. Don't go that hard. It's like, what the fuck? When did I walk into the Democratic Party? Like, why is this happening? I still can't understand it. You got less than 1%. What is at stake? I mean, a couple of $1,000. My God, go get a real job, for fuck's sake. This is crazy to me. God damn, work with your hands. Go pitch in on the front lines of the pandemic. Fucking get out there and shill for Howie Hawkins over a couple grand. I mean, it's just sad. It's just pathetic. So I don't want anything to do with any of those people ever again. I mean, that was a big realization over the summer, just how, like, outright used I was by so many Greens. I mean, there wasn't one person trying to fuck with you in the Green Party primary. It was sad. And some people were fucking with you for good. I mean, like, Sittenam, I give her a lot of credit. She's fucking with you for good. She's like, let's get out there and all have a team effort. That made sense. David Roll, like, blowing people up about what's going on with Syria and Hawkins's white helmet shit. I mean, that's good stuff. That's good blowing people up, Chad too. But god damn, I mean, I don't want to work with any of these folks ever again. I mean, like, if you get asked to be on some panel with, I mean, great. If I ever get on Jimmy Dore one day, like, that's fucking great. But I'm not going to hold on to that so fucking tightly and act like I'm the biggest celebrity on the planet, like goddamn Jill or any of these Hawkins supporters. I mean, for fuck's sake, are we here to fix the planet? Are we here to actually like espouse our values, or are we here to fucking pretend that we're celebrities chumming with Cornel West or whatever the fuck we want to do next? I'm not a fucking celebrity. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit how I look. I don't give a shit what I say. I give a shit about my values and that they're put out there every day. So, I mean, I guess I don't know anything about MPP. I mean, you know, it seems like a lot of celebrities, which really makes me go, yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
not really interested in getting into celebrity worship. I'm not going, yeah, I mean, has AOC done some good things? Sure. Has AOC done some terrible things? Yeah. She needs to be called out. That's my same problem with the Green Party. It's like as they got more and more invested in Hawkins, it was like, can we call anything he does out? Anything? Is anything okay to talk about? Can we call out the misgendering of Chelsea Manning? No. Can we call out the imperialism? No. Is there anything we could say about his campaign on the end? No, you can't say anything. I mean, I might as well just go with the Trump cult. At least then I'd actually get some people out of Syria or out of Afghanistan. He's actually, you know, like, fuck, if you can't honestly assess how things are going, then you're in a damn cult. I don't know what else to tell you. So, I mean, no, I don't think it's worth saving. I don't know if there's any political party I currently want to be involved with. MPP says they had a Democratic naming of their party. That's a good first step. They need to keep it Democratic. I need to see, you know, how Democratic they are. And if they stay true to their values and stay Democratic, yeah, sure, maybe. But I not that the celebrity worship. I'm not down for that. And the independent Green parties, I mean, Chad's right. I mean, this has been going on for quite some time. The backbiting, the backstabbing. Man, I mean, we need a third party that's going to hold itself up to a higher standard and say, you know, we're going to impose our values, or we're going to kick these people out. You know, that to me has to be the way to go in the future. There's got to, you know, like we should have litmus tests internally in the party, and they should be, how democratic are you? Like, are you actually going to hold a real primary, or is this going to be your little pet workshop with all your buddies and call yourself a primary? It's not going to cut it. You know, people are looking for real answers right now, and they're just not getting it from any party. I you know, I'm a socialist and I'm an anti-capitalist. I'm not at all a conspiracy theorist, but man, I mean, you couldn't be in a better position right now for kicking real, authentic people out of politics. I mean, that to me seems to be what's going on. I mean, you're just left with a bunch of tools for one establishment or another, and we're making no progress, and we're digging ourselves into a grave here as the planet burns and the military keeps on rolling. So, I mean, it's rough out there. I mean, I support single issue stuff like, you know, freedom for Julian Assange. That's a big deal right now. I'm out there, you know, every day almost in Baltimore handing out food to people who need it. I mean, goddamn, my time is just so much better spent taking a couple of phone calls, coordinating food drops off in public housing projects. Reverend Chambers, my mentor and running mate back in the governor's race, than it is dealing with these idiots and their wannabe celebrityism. It's just sad to me. So, I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll feel better after the holidays and the pandemic is over. But that's interesting, you know, Chad. And I'm glad to hear that, you know, those independent parties are trying to make it work, because it is a federation. They could do better. They could build a better constitution for themselves and use that as a model for other states. And I hope they do. I'll stop there. I promise.
That was amazingly said. Yeah. Richard, feel free to rant about MPP, because folks need to understand what a viable option is. So go ahead.
I mean, the first thing to get out of the way is the Green Party as it is untenable to redeem, and the brand is pretty much irreparably damaged. I mean, not that pre-2016 people didn't assume the Greens were a bunch of hippies, but I mean, after this election cycle, good luck running on the Green name and not getting laughed at, especially if Hawkins is going to get grandfathered in for 2024. Like, my advice to people is not to waste your time if we already know how that's going to work out. The fact that people in that party are already cheering that he signed up to run for 2024 tells me more than enough that I need to know that party's not worth my time. That being said, I don't think MPP is a very good viable option. I've been thinking about lately, you know, look, the purpose of a national party is to get ballot access in the most utilitarian sense. It's to get ballot access and to get matching funding. So what is it that says that there has to be anything beyond that we want the two-party system to be over with and money out of politics and the election system reformed to just get enough people together to get ballot access for third-party candidates? Like what? And then let primaries and states sort out the ideology for individual states, right? That seems to be more to the heart of the idea of having a federation of parties anyways, and would accomplish the end goal of all these damn disparate third-party movements. But instead, everybody's got their own clout that they got to chase. And so the thing that we're celebrating right now is that the Movement for a People's Party decided to name themselves the People's Party. Holy shit. Wow, water's wet. Like, oh my God. What else are they doing? What would happen to their 12-step plan to get ballot access? I looked at it the other day, and the images were all bugged, and all you could see was like one of them, and you had to dig through the computer code to look at the rest of them, and there's still like one sentence of ideas for each bullet point. And I showed that list with you, Franco, which was, it was just like, go to states that believe in the same ideas as us and drum up support for those ideas to build momentum for a base. And it just, obviously, not only is it circular, but there's no substance there. Folks that I've spoken with who know Nick Brana have said that he has a lot of good ideas, but no connection to organizers. And so he just kind of sits there spinning, and I gotta wonder if that's all that's going on, or if this is supposed to be a dead end. I mean, Ryan Knight's flip-flopped his views on Twitter I don't know how many times, but people still want to like purify him and say, yeah, this guy's a representative of the left. Like, look, and that's not even saying like he voted for Hillary in 2016. I don't care about that. But the flip-floppy, yeah, you should settle for Biden maybe if you're in a swing state. And then he deleted the tweets because he got dragged by his fan base. God forbid his Patreon donations take a hit so that he takes a stance for something. But these are the kind of people, he's supposed to be the spokesperson of that party. The spokesperson of that party is more concerned with his Patreon donations and having a consistent ideology. What does that tell you about the folks that are running that shit? Nothing positive. Nina Turner's podcast was getting blown up a few weeks ago because it was sponsored by Goldman Sachs, and it seems like she's going to get grandfathered in as their 2024 candidate if they get ballot access. So just like, is this all just one big grift? Because y'all have a really great merch shop and nothing else.
I'm not even impressed. I'm not even impressed with that. It's just as bad as the Green Party.
You guys spoke really well. I think it was really therapeutic, your rants, and I think it was really therapeutic for the chat too. They were loving it. One thing I tell people on this channel is that we need to stop relying on other people, thinking that they can come and save you. It's time for you to take action. The only person that will save you is you. You are the hero of your own story. So stop relying on XX candidate 2024, even if they have done great things. Stop relying on that. Stop hoping for that to come and save, the country and the world. You have to take action now. So with that being said, I'm gonna ask a few questions that the audience has said, and see what you guys will say in response, because they had really interesting things to say. So Jacksit says, say hello to Reverend Annie.
Oh, I will.
Says to
Sure.
Fuzz, you had an interesting question. I'm trying to look for that. So people were going after some of these personalities from YouTube. And you guys were also, Chad, I think you were bringing up Graham Elwood. What are some ways that you guys think progressive or independent media can improve in their coverage of third-party options?
I would say, first of all, cover it. Hold people accountable. If we're shit candidates, call us out as being shit candidates. And even if you don't like us, point out the parts that need to be stronger. Because if the left, or just in general, because it's not just the left. I mean, a lot of Bernie supporters in 2016 voted for Trump. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that I know now that are real progressive would rather have voted for Trump than they would have Biden. You know, they would rather vote for Trump than Hawkins. You know what I mean? Like, which is, you know, it was funny that Richard, that, you know, he said something earlier, or somebody said something about, oh no, Ian said about Trump people, because there's actually a connection right now about being against the corruption because of Russiagate, because of how they use the propaganda. To me, I look at it as a real opportunity to connect with them that don't understand everything that's going on, because they may get it right with the Russiagate, they may get it right with the FISA-gate and the Obama spying. They may get it right on these few different things that affect Trump. But the point is for people to understand the behavior and understand what it is, so they can apply that to these other things. Like when it comes to during Obama's term, you know, it was the you know, he took it from 2 wars to 7 wars. So there was a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric. There was a lot of fear beat about Islamic extremists and kind of thing, whatnot. And that kind of stuff is on purpose, and it's to fan the flames, because we saw it in the left, the liberal, and how the whole Russia. Oh, it's Trump, the Trump derangement syndrome. And what that's been doing, it's been gaslighting people, and it's been putting people into a position where they have to defend Trump. They don't even have an opportunity to say, okay, yeah, he's a war criminal too. You know what I mean? If you said, okay, let's take down the corruption, Obama and you know, the Clintons and stuff like that, those are the people that gave us Trump. So it would just be smart to work with the people that want to get rid of the same corruption, because that will clear the air and allow us to build a relationship. You know, and I say that because it's something that independent media should be understanding these elements about connecting people that have the same they where they can connect at. If that makes sense, like that's the part. But it's even independent media is still very bubblish, very like, you know, Tim Black was on the Bernie train. Tim Black can't call out anything in the Democratic Party, you know, that affects his base. So there's some of that. You know, I mean, I see on Jimmy Dore that there are a lot of Trump supporters or conservatives or whatever that do follow him, that do watch him, even though that they don't agree with him. And like things like that are things that we need to look at and make sure we recognize and applaud, because what it says is that people are willing to engage and come to our house. You know what I mean? Come to learn, come to listen, even if they don't agree. That's, to me, that's the part that we have to capture, you know, because against censorship, being against corruption and against the propaganda, we can't lose.
All right, so Fuzz the Fair, he asks, since the Green Party has seemingly fallen to corporatist hands, will the left Green Party strategy moving forward be a repetition of the intention to take over the Democrats in 2018? So you guys gave your advice for what you think, but do you think that there's going to be a faction of the Green Party that's going to be trying to resist the current people that have a hand in the Green Party? Is there going to be a resistance in the Green Party? What do you think? And I think I'll start with you, Ian. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a little late. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what's so like messed up. A lot of people do not understand how much there were 2 major factions in the Green Party. I would say going into summer of 2019, and that was the Jill Stein faction, who was the moderate faction. So you notice, like, Jill Stein would never call herself a socialist, but she was pretty good on anti-imperialist issues, went to a lot of peace summits and stuff like that, got reamed by a lot of people who were going to some of these, like the ones in Russia or the ones in the Koreas. But then there were the hardliners who you claim to be like true socialist, but they're just not. I mean, there's nothing. They backed Hawkins, who's pro-imperialism, and is really weak. He's like, I mean, Hawkins would be a moderate DSA member. If he came up in the scene now. You know, a lot of the organizations that he was with were like the ISO, and even his Socialist Party were just very tepid socialist positions. Even the Green New Deal, it still doesn't say we're revolting against capitalism. It assumes that there's still markets. It assumes that people still need to make money. I mean, it's not revolutionary. It's reformist. So, I mean, if people keep trying to, I get it. I do. I understand. People are trying to figure out, like, you know, how did the Green Party get corrupted? Or how did, you know, the corporatists get into the Green Party? It's not really like that. It's more like two very ego-driven factions. The Stein faction and then this other faction, the Green Party Power faction, fought viciously for years. Primo Nutmeg did a fantastic job, I think, on the last interview I did with him, on actually opening up some of the old fights that these two factions had, if you want to read about them. You know, nowadays, the two factions have come together. I mean, Jill Stein and her group of people that resisted and hated the Green Party Power faction caved to them. I mean, they handed them the keys to the kingdom. One of the fights that was ongoing for years that people probably don't know about, and this is probably too wonky, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway, is that there was a fight on the Accreditation Committee of the Green Party. The Accreditation Committee is the committee that says this state is a Green Party, and this state isn't a Green Party, and kicks states out of the Green Party. So there was a constant fight between the Jill faction and the Green Party Power faction, now the Hawkins faction, to like stack this committee with more and more people. It got ludicrous. It got to like almost 100 people at one point. It just kept putting more and more people on the Accreditation Committee. They weren't going by values. They were going by, do I like the people in this state, and do I want to kick them out of the whole country? That's what they were going by. I mean, the values of the Green Party, it turns out, are not as important as which celebrity you back. Do you back the Green Party Power faction, now run by Howie Hawkins, or do you back the Jill Stein faction? And now, since Jill Stein has just completely capitulated to Howie, and Howie's going to run again, and she's not going to challenge him, I know for a fact she's not going to challenge him. Jill, I don't think you're going to see her run again. I mean, it's possible that she'll wake up and realize how fractured the Green Party is and challenge Hawkins, but she doesn't have the stomach for it, and she knows how dangerous these folks are in the Green Party Power faction. She doesn't want to get doxxed. She doesn't want all these negative articles coming out about her from them. So without anyone to stand up internally in the Green Party, I don't see this getting any better. Will there be an effort from more corporatists to come in, like more Democrats? I don't think so, because the Democrats, look, I mean, this is going to piss a lot of people off, but if I ran in the Democratic primary, there's a rule book that I could get that tells me my state's laws here in Maryland about what I need to do to get on that ballot line and make sure that I'm on the primary ballot come that day. And I don't even have to raise a ton of money. I could just get on the ballot line. I don't even have to. Most of the time, you don't even need signatures like in Maryland. So, I mean, it's more democratic. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. So it's certainly not an endorsement. Obviously, that party has terrible problems. But even the Democrats wouldn't pull this kind of shit. Like, even they would go, okay, kicking, that's just too far what the Green Party did. So, no, I think if you got corporatists, they're going to stick with the Democratic Party. The Green Party is in for another rough 4 years. That's where I see it going.
So, Richard, this question's for you from Brian Aguilar. He asks, I know it's too early, but will we have more information about our new movement and what's to come next? When will we get updates?
Right on. Hi, Brian. He's a People for Jesse supporter. Yeah, I mean, things are pretty much up in the air right now. We've got folks moving in different directions. I know we had one guy, Dan, who was a volunteer of ours from New York, moved to Alaska and is now building domes for the homeless up there to live throughout the winter. So there's lots of different sort of small movements that folks are splintering into, but then there's also some folks that are interested in electoral reform. as well as possibly like a third-party movement moving forward, trying to establish ballot lines more specifically rather than like a whole new charter and here's a whole new ideology for folks to have to read some theory on and get steeped in before you sign up to our brand of leftism. Like, how are we going to reach people these days with that? My God. How hard is it to get people to pick up a book? And that's what we expect of people to join the left. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Nice. All right, let me see if there's any more questions here. Everyone here seems to be in agreement that Hawkins 2024 is a no-go. Everybody's trashing him here. There are a couple people on here who are upset with the Jimmy Dore interview that he had with Howie Hawkins. Do you guys want to express any of your thoughts on that interview?
Well, I'll go. This will be really quick for me. I was really pissed off when I heard about that because I know a lot of folks that reached out to Jimmy and told him about the rigging. I don't really know Jimmy very well, nor do I know I was out of the race a long time by then, but it was kind of embarrassing that, you just don't call that out. I don't get it, especially if he's supposedly a fan of Ventura and Ventura being on the Alaska line. I didn't get that move at all.
Yeah, I think it was either Jill Stein or Chris Hedges, because he said it at the beginning that it was a friend that talked him into doing the interview or something like that. And you could tell that he obviously didn't enjoy it. But the whole point is you're doing it for who, for what? You're giving up your credibility. You can't even call out the people that are supposed to occupy the same space as you. And that's what people, gave him shit about Tulsi. You know what I mean? But by not giving her enough shit about what she, certain things. And so that to me, I guess that is what bothered me too the most, is that because he knew what was going on. So whoever was in his ear obviously holds a lot of weight to it, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's Jill Stein because, they're just like all up her ass. Like, I get it. I mean, I voted for her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was excited about having voted towards something that I cared about. I believed in the platform. I believed in what she was saying. I just didn't know that she was full of shit that doesn't really follow what she says. I mean, how is your whole thing about election integrity and election, real democracy, and you don't want people to have the option to get votes. You don't want a candidate to bring energy to the table. Jimmy really. But see, that's the whole thing, is like, why do they ignore it? I tried to rah, as much as I could, like, hey, wake the fuck up, like I'm a product of what you've been doing, Jimmy. Like, what you're doing is what I'm trying to get you to do. Like, I'm trying to get these guys engaged. That's why, Ron Pacone, same thing. And he's like all buddies with Michael O'Neill, which Michael O'Neill is on Hawkins' thing. He's the media guy, the communications director of the Green Party. And now we hear that he's been living in one of Hawkins' house for free, rent free for a few years or something like that. So, I mean, he should have went after him. Just put the nail in the coffin. But he didn't.
Yeah, so Jack Sith asked if I can drop some links. Did you guys mention anything that you guys wanted to share for people, any links that you would like the audience members to take a look at or to join? You guys can send that over to me, and then I can have it in the description for the video. Cat83 writes that Nico House has covered the corruption of the Green Party and even interviewed Dario Hunter. He also had Ian. Yeah, there was some independent media that did a great job covering this. Nico House is one of them. Primo Nutmeg did an amazing job as well. He had all three of you gentlemen on. I tried my best to cover it. There were some channels that did a great job trying to cover the truth about what was happening here, and they influenced me to cover it. So hopefully going forward there is some more objectivity and some more objective covering about what's happening in these third parties. We're gonna need a lot of it with MPP going forward, because a lot of these independent channels like Jimmy Dore are promoting it despite there being some problems there. And, we can't afford any more false hope going forward. Brian Aguilar writes, can you ask Chad Wilson about the Independent Green Party of the United States, and is it going to be an official party?
Yes, it's going to be an official party. We're just putting everything together right now, getting everything set up so we can launch it, and we're gonna have some behind the scenes kind of organization things to get everything mapped out. That way, when we launch, it's ready to rock and roll. So just hang tight, and probably the next month or so we should be good to go.
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Slow News Day, because he also had you on, Ian, and that was a really great interview. That I was like, whoa, like that's where I found out about like the faction, like the Jill Stein faction versus the Howie Hawkins faction. So Steve did a good job there. He also had Dario Hunter on. Richard Medhurst also had Dario Hunter on. So I think this is a good spot to end. It's been 90 minutes. Is there any last words you guys want to say before we close here? Any shout outs, any links you want people to know about?
I mean, I think the most important thing we should stress is right. And I think it's funny that the person who you can quote on this most importantly is Jimmy Dore himself. Like, hold your own heroes accountable, right? And hold your own figures accountable in media. That means hold him accountable too, and anybody else that you're watching. So everybody who's been quiet about Assange because they're afraid of rocking the boat and getting deplatformed, maybe post that content on a site where it's not going to get deleted. I don't know. Like, why not at least try to speak out about it a little bit? It's just disappointing to see people fold when they've been putting themselves in a position to try and be a spokesperson so long, right? And I was really disappointed with Jimmy Dore's interview of Hawkins, but I mean, I'm not going to cancel him over that, because that's another problem that the left has, is like one mistake means we throw the baby out with the bathwater. But at the same time, that's going to color my impression of him moving forward. Anytime that he's bashing journalists for access journalism concerns, that's going to be in the back of my mind. Well, what the hell was going on with that Hawkins interview? Were you really concerned about maintaining access to the Green Party? It's just unfortunate. We need to be more mindful.
Yeah.
But if I guess I'll just, there's a couple of Medium articles out there. I can send you the links and stuff like that if people want to read, some of the details. A lot of the stuff that I wrote that pissed people off was literally just a copy and paste of the joint letters that we put out as candidates at the time. And people were just furious about it. And it's like every candidate's telling you that this is rigged, but you just, you don't want to see it. And I also want to give a shout out to all the amazing indie journalists like yourself, Franco, for covering this. Steve at Slow News Day, Primo Nutmeg, and Nico. I mean, man, Nico was really impartial too, because Nico through a debate. I was not prepared to debate Justin Beth. Justin Beth just came into Nico's chat, and Nico was like, "You're debating him now," and I'm like, "What the fuck? Seriously, Nico?" I was like, well, all right, whatever. So, but it was cool. I mean, it was fair and it was impartial. And I give Jimmy Dore credit for at least pointing out the Russiagate stuff, but I just don't understand why you didn't finish the job. I mean, you were already out there. I mean, that was like a big deal in the Green Party at the time. People were really furious at him for calling out Hawkins on Russiagate, and he stood firm. So why he switched at the very end, I have no idea. And I don't think this spells success for a. I mean, if we were to kind of have a wipe the slate clean moment and try to have if the Green Party, I'm not part of it anymore, tries to have a fair primary for 2024. I don't see how that could happen unless we get triple, quadruple the amount of independent journalists that are going to cover this topic, because the mainstream media really isn't going to cover it. I really thought that if Hawkins actually got more press, that the mainstream media would cover it to show what hypocrites the Green Party was. So it's kind of like a good thing in a way that Hawkins did so fucking poorly, because otherwise he would have had one CNN interview where they just would have knocked his block off. They just would have smacked him for being the biggest hypocrite on the planet. I mean, he was just a terrible candidate. So, I mean, it's all about money, folks. I mean, I hate to keep dispelling it, but I like to say it wherever I could. It's not about what you might think it is. It's about money and influence, and people that pretend they're celebrities want to be with other celebrities who also are pretending to be celebrities. Anytime you see someone with that much access to media and just not out there pitching new, bold ideas or revolutionary ideas, but instead giving you the same talking points over and over and over again in an attempt to get more media coverage for themselves, you got to question what their motive is. You got to question, is this person a fighter? This person ever actually got public office? Would they actually do a damn thing? That's always the question that I'm asking myself. We got to hold people accountable. And I don't want people to get discouraged either. Like, it shouldn't turn people off from activism in general. Political activism might be a dead end. Maybe it'll be a dead end for a while longer. But, like, there are so many people out there that are hungry, that are homeless, that are starving, that are just getting fucked over by capitalism. And if you think that this is a waste of time or not a good use of your time, get out there on another subject. Tweet at Donald Trump, get him to free Assange. God knows Joe Biden's not going to do it. Get out there and make a big deal about Comcast cutting people off in the middle of the pandemic. There's so many good topics out there for you to get involved in right now. Don't let this discourage you. You have the values, not some political party. Keep going.
And everything these guys are saying. Holding people accountable. Nobody's perfect, and we all make mistakes. We're all growing, and we just have to understand, that we're at different points in our life, and we're supposed to educate each other. We're supposed to communicate this information, and we're supposed to build that technique to be able to do it and say, hey man, no, this is what happened. WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, to where it's comfortable correcting people, because a lot of our emotion, everything's built off some information, whether that information is good or bad. Stay focused on that. Look at the behavior and then apply the behavior to the people rather than looking at just the person. So then that way you can look at it that way. And I just want to say one thing about Nico House. Nico House, he didn't. I brought up Jill Stein, so he didn't cover me as fairly as I would have liked it, because he kept pushing about the money thing. But didn't you raise enough money? Didn't you raise enough money? Whatever, And when he promoted, or when he released that segment, he didn't even put my name on the tagline. He didn't put my picture. He didn't put the thing, So there was purposely, Nico. I guess we had a little run-in a long time ago. I don't know if he remembers that, but so anyways, just saying about that is if so, and let me point that out too, like Jill Stein or like Hawkins or like Jimmy Dore, if there's something that someone does or something that isn't right or is bullshit, you have every right to call it out. And if you're not okay with calling something out and you're not going to be that person, don't give someone else shit for calling out what needs to be called out, because it's all for the greater good. Because if we can't hold each other accountable, no one's going to respect us as a team, as a whole, as a left, however you want it. We have to hold each other. So thank you. And thank you, man, for having this.
Yeah, thanks for having this. I don't know if I mentioned Slow News Day. I gotta just point that out. Steve let me roast Jill Stein, and man, I mean, he was like, let's burn some sacred cows. I think he literally wrote that. Man, I give a lot of credit to anyone willing to do that, because that's just powerful thing to do right there. But and thank you too, Franco. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there is no filter with Steve. He goes after anyone. But yeah, I thank you guys so much for coming on here. I had a blast. the message you guys have for the audience here is amazing, and I hope to stay in contact with you guys and have you guys on again. To everybody else, don't forget to stay informed. I love you guys and take care.
Later, folks.